5 Ways to Find Great Project-Based Learning Ideas, episode 605. Thank you, Advancement Courses, for sponsoring today's show. Stay tuned at the end of the show for a special discount that will let you save 20% on engaging and meaningful online development.
The 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with Vicki Davis. Every weekday, you'll learn powerful, practical ways to be a more remarkable teacher today.
Today, we're talking with Dr. Jennifer Pieratt. She works with crafted curriculum and is author of Keep It Real with PBL Elementary and Keep It Real with PBL for Secondary. And today, we're going to talk about 5 ways to come up with project-based learning ideas. So, Jenny, where do we start?
Gosh, I'm just so glad that we're talking about this because this is probably the number one question I get from teachers is where do I even start with ideas? And my first recommendation for teachers is actually, this is going to sound really bizarre, but on vacation. So I know it's really hard and we all like to take a break from our daily responsibilities, but I always bring a Moleskine journal with me or I use the Notes app on my phone because sometimes when we're away from work, that's where we come up with our most creative outside the box ideas. So it's actually my favorite place to come up with project ideas. You can ask any member of my family.
Hey, give me a great idea you came up with on vacation one time.
Yeah, I actually just posted one last week. We went to the Red Rock Canyon area right outside of Las Vegas, and I was talking with my kiddos over the course of like a 5-mile hike. We decided that you could cover every type of science through a survival science project.
Oh, a survival science project would be fantastic. That is so cool.
We figured out you could even bring in math and ELA, informational reading and writing and research. I mean, my poor kids, we talked about it for the entire hike.
I know, don't we? Bring it with us, don't we, Jenny? Okay, what's your second?
My second one is actually just simply on a walk, and the walk might be in your neighborhood where you live or a walk right outside your classroom door and, the mile radius around your school. I think taking some time to just leave your phone behind and look at what's going on around you. It might be some form of a political sign that you might see. It might be about a development in your community. It might be about an environmental issue that's happening or transportation. There's so much that's around us, but I think, we often have technology with us and we're thinking about things. And it's just nice to kind of take a walk and see what's actually happening around you because that is the real world and that's the context that learning can happen in for kids.
Yeah. And, take a walk with a colleague and plan a cross-curricular. There's lots of ideas happen because you're also sending that blood to your brain and stimulating your creativity. Okay, what's our third?
Well, my third is actually happens to be tied to the first example that I gave, but it's actually just being in nature. So hiking is one of my favorite places. Bike riding also. I think a lot about safety issues and transportation when I'm out on my road bike. When I'm out on my mountain bike, I think a lot about just science and the world around us and environmental issues. So I think just getting out into nature is also a really great way to think about the world around you and environmental issues as well.
And doing projects out in nature because kids, it's a different kind of engagement when you get outside. Okay, what's our fourth?
Is actually when you collect your mail. So going through your mail, and for me, I only do that every couple days, but going through your mail, there's a lot in there. And sometimes it's the junk that you want to throw away, but there's things that are happening in your local community that get mailed out, especially on election time. But you might get mailers from your local city about developments that are happening, or just kind of happenings, things that are obviously relevant to your local community. So I encourage people to actually just spend some time thinking about projects with that lens when you're looking through the mail.
You hear about, a Veterans Day event and figure out how you can interview those veterans and make a living history museum. I mean, there are just so many ways. And when you do that sort of interaction with your community, you are connecting kids to the community, which is very healthy for them. Okay, what's our fifth?
So the fifth one is actually, and this is a big one, just looking at media for project ideas. So, when I get ready in the morning, I listen to NPR, and there's always a million ideas that come to mind. And those are obviously current events, global events that are happening. Social media, which I know seems bizarre to kind of have that lens when you're glazing through and trolling on, Instagram or Facebook, but there's actually things that are viral. I mean, that right there is a key to you that this is something that's obviously interesting to a lot of people and could be interesting to your students. My husband is probably one of the dying few that still reads the newspaper every weekend, but he will push little articles that he clips out for me, and he'll say, this is a project idea, or look at this, kids could totally do something with this. So I actually think for the few people that still read the newspaper, that the newspaper is just, it's so many happenings that are going on locally, globally, however you want to define community, there's opportunity for real world context that you can map onto any standard for students.
So Jenny, what do you say to those that say, oh, these are all great ideas, but I don't have time to use a project?
Yeah, and I get that, and I know where that comes from. I think a lot of people feel like PBL ends up being in addition to all the things that they're being asked to do. And really, when PBL is done well, it actually is just a vehicle for doing what you would need to do anyway. So it really can embed all of your standards. It really can embed every content area, not always every content area all the time, but it really can be your vehicle for teaching and learning so that it doesn't feel like it has to be something that you're tacking on to all the things you're already doing.
And, I find that deeper learning happens with projects. I've got a big 3-week project and I'll be teaching so many different standards, presentation standards, and I'm tying it in with CES. I just put it on my blog over the weekend, the Consumer Electronics Show and the presentation skills and all the other things. That is, you can teach with current events. You can teach with so many things, but projects can just be more relevant, don't you think?
I do. I think, I always start out when we're designing projects with, similar to backwards design, coming up with an enduring understanding. And I think that long-term understanding, that transfer and application of learning is really, to me, what I'm most passionate about. And it's about getting students to learn something now, but remember it 10 years from now. And so I think that's a beautiful thing about project-based learning, and that not only can they cover so many standards, but you hit so many things by proxy. So all these real world skills that you're mentioning, they're things that they just wouldn't get from a worksheet or a textbook that are really, truly preparing them for their future, whatever that might be for every child.
Dr. Jennifer Pieratt from Crafted Curriculum, and she's got books, she's got resources, she's got a blog, she's on Twitter. So if you want to, we've had lots of conversations on the show over the last couple of years about project-based learning, and these are great ways to find project ideas. And in fact, Jenny, you kind of sparked something in my mind. I think about the teachers I know who do the most amazing projects, and very often they'll come back from Christmas break or come back from spring break and say, oh, I was sitting by the pool and I had the best idea, or oh, I was in the mall and I had the best idea. And then they put together these fantastic projects that, kind of like the eureka moment, with the scientist running down the road after he jumped out of the bathtub.
Totally.
That's what happens. So
I think we just get so stuck in the grind. And so it's good to get away and just remember that learning can happen anywhere.
With that, we'll end the show. Learning can happen anywhere. Thanks, Jenny. Thanks
so much for having me.
It's a new year, and that means it's time to plan your professional development with advancement courses. They offer over 240 online graduate-level PD courses in 19 different subject areas for busy K-12 teachers just like you and me. Because these courses are online and self-paced, you can take them anywhere, anytime, with up to 6 months to complete. Right now, my listeners and blog readers can save 20% off each course. Just use the code COOL20. That's $120 per graduate credit hour or $160 for 50 clock hours. Go to advancementcourses.com/CoolCat now. These courses are available for graduate credit through CAEP and regionally accredited university partners, or for continuing education units that meet your state requirements. I love these courses because they are practical and you can create things to use in your classroom now. So go to advancementcourses.com/CoolCat and use the coupon code COOL20. Never stop learning.